From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. The severe heat has left us for now, but wildfires continue to explode across Montana. The state has seen 90 blazes begin this week alone, with 6 coming in the last 24 hours. Montana's #1 priority fire remains the Boulder 2700 fire near Flathead Lake, which has destroyed at least 20 structures over the weekend. Today, Montana Governor Greg Gianforte traveled to the Boulder 2700 to meet with fire managers and get a first-hand look at the damage. Those flames are still considered very active and has now burned more than 1,700 acres. MTN's Dennis Bragg was at the briefing and has the latest.
With the Boulder 2700 fire filling the Mission Valley with thick smoke from horizon to horizon, Governor Gianforte visited the fire camp at Pablo, checking in on the progress against the blaze, which erupted over the weekend, burning more than 20 structures, including 8 homes. Leaders of the Type 2 fire team that assumed command earlier this week told the governor there's still lots of work before they can say they have any containment on the fire. Brett Pargman, the operations section chief with the Northern Rockies Incident Management Team, explained how fire crews are working to get ahead of the fire on both the southern and northern flanks. Part of that strategy is to use the Boulder Creek drainage to try and contain the fire on the north.
The state, the feds, the local fire department, we've been working really close with the folks from Finley Point, and they've been helping us out.
Parkman told the governor power crews are still working to restore service with considerable hazardous trees and debris presenting safety problems. Gianforte also visited the Red Cross evacuation shelter in Polson, where shelter workers told he and his wife Susan of the amazing response from individuals, businesses, and community groups to help with donations of food and other supplies, explaining how social media powered those relief efforts.
We ran out of Red Cross blankets. People bring blankets and pillows.
Posted on Facebook and everything starts showing up. Montanans help their neighbor, and that's what's going on here in Polson. And I got a chance to talk to a couple of people that displaced. They couldn't say enough good things about how the communities just wrapped their arms around them.
Roughly 500,000 acres have burned across Montana, and it's only the start of August. I asked the governor what he would like to say to people who've lost property or are dealing with the fear of fire.
This is a difficult period for Montana. I know Montana is resilient, know that we're praying for them, and that we're going to get through this. I am just so impressed with the leadership we have from our firefighting community. County resources, tribal resources, state resources, federal resources, they're all working together. We have great collaboration, but we'll get through this.
And even as the governor was wrapping up his visit this morning, the winds were already kicking up. That continues to be a challenge for the firefighters.
We don't know exactly how this one got started yet, but most of them are human caused. So folks, just be careful out there. Secure the chains, prepare your property, and be careful.
In Polson, Dennis Bragg, MTN News.
Well, Lake County Sheriff Don Bell says of the 500 people evacuated from their homes over the weekend, 450 have now been allowed to return. All right, turning to Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh. Ed, you've been tracking some storms in the area. What are you seeing right now?
There's storms moving into the southwestern portion of the state, and some of these could be a little bit stronger. You see that around Butte. We've already had wind gusts well over 50 miles an hour. And as we start looking around Red Lodge area, it looks like those storms may have scooted around you just a little bit, but all those blue and silver flickers are all lightning strikes. So that continues to be a concern. As we take it through the evening hours of tonight, here's simulated radar. So the path of the storm looks like it could push it up through the Billings area. Now that's overdone, but a chance of a stronger storm, especially from Billings south through northern Wyoming, is possible through the evening hours, and then another round of showers possible overnight heading into tomorrow. But Friday holds our best chance of rain overall, and some of those storms could be strong to severe. We'll talk more about that with the forecast details in just a few minutes.
Well, the state's wildfires have impacted just about everyone, and that includes Montana's wildlife. MTN's Andy Curtis ventured out to learn the role the flames and smoky skies are playing on wildlife.
Everyone in the state is dealing with the wildfires or droughts in one way or another. But what do these current conditions mean for our big game animal population and the upcoming hunting season? The short answer is, it's complicated. That's because mild winters that result in the fire seasons like the one we're dealing with right now also mean higher winter survival rates for our deer, elk, moose, and pronghorn. Fires also lead to new growth and nutrition, which benefits our wildlife. But it's obviously not all positive.
Right now, with the dry summer, it makes it really difficult from a nutrition standpoint, trying to get them get the food that they need. And so we start to see, especially with the young, their survival rates may drop off. They become more susceptible to predation. Their malnutrition really getting them ready for this upcoming winter makes it really harder for them to make through it.
And it turns out the biggest threat to wildlife isn't the danger of the fire itself, but what it causes.
We don't typically see a lot of direct mortality loss as a result of those fires. We certainly displace wildlife, and then they wind up competing with other wildlife that's already exists in other situations, other conditions.
And as Brian reminded me, even with the early fire season raging on right now, things aren't exactly doom and gloom for our wildlife or upcoming hunting season.
The adults typically cope. They figure out how to adjust. We may see some added mortality for some of the young, especially coming up if we have a difficult winter. But at the same time, this is not something new for wildlife. They do address those kinds of situations, and after the fires are over, a lot of times we have really good recovery, and it can be a real benefit to wildlife.
Brian added that as of right now, hunters shouldn't expect too many changes this upcoming fall. But wildlife populations always fluctuate, so it's important to double check those FWP regulations on the FWP website. To make it easy, we've got a link to that in this story on our website. Reporting from Helena, Andy Curtis, MTN News.
Well, a Shepherd restaurant owner was arraigned today in federal court on charges related to a COVID-19 relief fraud scheme. 70-year-old Michael Bolte of Shepherd, who owns the Feedlot Steakhouse, pleaded not guilty to an indictment charging him with wire fraud and more. According to a news release, the charges are in connection to a scheme to defraud the Small Business Administration of approximately $75,000 in a COVID-19 relief loan. Bolte allegedly used the funds for personal benefit, including buying classic cars. Those SBA loan proceeds are to be used solely as working capital for businesses' operating expenses. If convicted, he would have to forfeit 4 classic cars, including a 1916 Studebaker and a 1929 Franklin, and could face up to 20 years in prison. Well, Carbon County commissioners met today, 2 days after voters turned down ballot measures for a new jail. The proposed detention facility would have started with 53 beds, with the potential to expand to almost double that. Commissioner Bill Bullock says there's no other plan at this point. The sheriff's office will continue to drive inmates to Rosebud and Broadwater counties at a cost of more than $500 to $850. Citizens overwhelmingly voted against a $19 million bond to build a new jail and the $1.83 million mill levy for operation and maintenance. Unofficial results show the bond and mill levy both failed by wide margins, with more than 60% voting no on each.
We put this initiative forth because we had to ask the question on how our constituents want to spend their tax dollars. I think that our constituents and our residents gave it a lot of thought. There was a lot of emotion around the issue. There hasn't been a detention facility available in Carbon County right now for over 20 years. But we had to ask because, like most small counties in Montana, we're spending a lot of money to detain inmates, and it's not a problem that's going to go away.
Commissioner Bullock says the issue is now finished and a decision may have to be made with the property that the county purchased southeast of Joliet. Republican Senator Steve Daines says he'll be voting no on the $1 trillion infrastructure bill before the Senate. Daines notes that supporters of the package promised it would not increase the national debt. However, the Congressional Budget Office on Thursday said the bill will increase the federal debt by $256 billion over the next decade. Daines called that impact absolutely unacceptable at a time when inflation is already increasing. Supporters of the bipartisan measure, including Montana Democratic Senator John Tester, says the CBO score was not unexpected and that it doesn't consider all the revenue that supporters are including. Tester said today that infrastructure spending is badly needed and that the bill has almost $3 billion for Montana highway construction and maintenance over the next 5 years. A final vote on the package is expected in the next couple of days. Well, the Biden administration's moratorium on new oil and gas leases on federal land has already cost the state of North Dakota billions of dollars. Now, as that moratorium stretches into its 8th month, North Dakota officials are asking a federal judge to order the Interior Department to resume its quarterly lease sales. Last month, the North Dakota Attorney General sued Interior Secretary Deborah Haaland over the canceled lease sales this past March and June. State officials contend canceling those sales dried up as much as $86 million in potential royalties in western North Dakota alone. Some 236 tracts that were ready for auction are now on hold. Mineral Resources Director Lynn Helms estimates those tracts represent as many as 1,000 oil wells and $4.8 billion in future value to the state. North Dakota's lawsuit asked the court to set a specific date for restarting the lease sales. It would also prohibit future moratoriums. While no hearing date has yet been set, Helms says North Dakota is looking forward to its day in court. Well, Alive After 5 holds the first of its small batch concerts tonight with the Magic City Blues Festival. COVID caused some delays, so this is the first Alive After 5 instead of the last. Q2's David J. has more from downtown Billings.
Russ, we're out here at the McCormick Cafe out on Montana Avenue for the Magic City Blues Festival and Alive After 5. And they've got kind of in conjunction this year for the very first Alive After 5, and they're getting ready to be on the small stage there for the festival.
Oh, it's awesome. They have a really great eye for talent. I think Mike Ferris is going to kill it based on what I heard at Soundcheck. I don't know his music yet, but yeah, Magic City Blues knows how to put on a show. They've been doing it for 20 years as of this year, so. The music's got a good sound. They have a really killer stage. That's still, what is it? The Stillwater stage is really nice. It feels good to get the team back rolling in setting up for Alive After. Everybody loves it. It's an after work. You're not quite to the weekend, but you're almost to the weekend. I think everyone loves, especially if you work downtown, you get off work and you stroll on over to the Alive After 5 and connect with a lot of people you haven't seen maybe in a week or maybe in this case in a year. So I think there's going to be a lot of happy people gathering today. So.
Okay, anything else you want to add that we might have missed?
No.
So tonight it's Willie G on stage first, followed by Mike Ferris, and Mike Ferris will also be here later in the festival. Russ, we'll send it back to you.
All right, David J. reporting. Alive After 5 runs until 8 tonight at the McCormick Cafe on Montana Avenue and North 25th Street. The main part of the Magic City Blues Festival is Friday and Saturday. Up next on tonight's MTN 530 News here on Q2, COVID samples being tested are showing signs that the Delta variant is definitely here. We'll take you to our state's public health laboratory.
Hi everybody, Scott Breen at Dealer Park. Coming up in sports, we'll meet a Mustangs pitcher who happens to share his name with an NFL quarterback. Hear how that's working out straight ahead.